actually set this interview up with Joe Pittman a couple of weeks ago, not knowing for sure when it would be that you would be officially sworn in as a member of the Pennsylvania Senate. As suspected, it's going to be this coming Monday. Good morning and congratulations at the same time.
Todd, good morning. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So you are getting to Harrisburg on Monday, and you got to get right to work, don't you? There's a lot to do.
Yes, this truly is the most critical time of the legislative session because we have the constitutional obligation to pass a budget, a balanced budget, by June 30th. And so with that, you have not only the budget, but all of the crush of legislation that will move through the process in very quick order. Yeah. And so when I'm sworn in on Monday, and I will begin to vote, immediately on bills that are related to the budget.
So Monday afternoon, 1 o'clock is when this is going to occur.
Yes.
Take me inside that moment. You'll have your family there, I'm sure.
Yeah, well, my family and many of my friends will be there. It's I've kind of avoided thinking about the moment, to be honest with you, because it's just overwhelming to think about it. I view this truly as being a steward of the office, and it was interesting last night at the Chamber Hall of Fame dinner. One of the individuals I recognized was a state senator in 1933. And when you think about how, individuals come and go, but the office remains. Mm-hmm. And so to think about that relay, if you will, is pretty overwhelming.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk budget, of course, as soon as you get to work in Harrisburg on Monday. And I'm sure that you've already had discussions and been a part of this process, because it's not something that you go into completely blind.
Right. We're in a good position this year because we do have a budgetary surplus of about $800 million through the month of May. So that puts us in pretty good stead for this year. But at the same time, the cupboard is bare. We have very little in the rainy day fund to hedge against any economic slowdowns that eventually occur. And again, because we don't have the luxury that the federal government has and we are required to balance a budget, it makes good sense for us to have some reserves in the cupboard in the event of a downturn. And sometimes whenever there's more money, that can make it a little more difficult because then people have expectations of increased subsidies for schools or higher education and things of that nature. So there's a good and a bad to it.
Budget negotiations in Harrisburg have been really, really difficult for quite some time. The last few years a little smoother than the previous years. Governor Wolf at this moment is going around the state visiting various entities and touting his plan to tax severance taxes for gas wells and natural gas. It seems as if every group that he visits, no matter how diverse that group might be, whatever their interests are and whatever they need funding for, this seems to be something that he feels will be able to be enacted and then used for that purpose. And basically the reasoning is if we get these people behind this, they can put pressure on their legislator. Mm-hmm. Talk, if you would, about the severance tax package, which has always been a big part of Governor Wolf's proposals.
It has, and what really frustrates me, this came up a lot on the campaign trail, we do tax Marcellus Shell. It's called an impact fee, but it's a tax. A tax is a tax. And they have paid over $1.4 billion over the last 6 years in the impact tax. Now, why I like that as opposed to the severance tax is that money remains in large part here in the communities where the drilling and the impacts occur. Mm-hmm. Indiana County, I believe, over that time has received about $2.2 million directly for their use. On top of that, several of our municipalities have received, I think, almost a similar amount for use on roads and other infrastructure needs that they may have. I'm not interested in having that money go to Harrisburg and then have redistribution. The governor's talked a lot about infrastructure. Well, a report came out that was really no surprise to the legislature about how much money is required out of the motor license fund, the vehicle gas tax, to pay for the state police. Now, obviously, the state police deserve every resource we can provide them, but at the end of the day, those dollars were intended to fix our roads and bridges. Mm-hmm. And there is a plan to shift the state police funding back to the general fund. With the surplus we have, I think that is a more proper approach to try to get more money into our roads and bridges. But this severance tax, I mean, he's trying to make this Christmas in July, and I'm just not buying it.
Okay, so the budget is certainly going to be the dominant topic in Harrisburg mm-hmm. for the next several weeks and maybe a couple of months. What are some of the other priorities that you're looking at as you get established in Harrisburg and you move forward in this session and then after that as well?
Well, I think we have to look at regulatory reform. I grow increasingly frustrated at the fight we have with bureaucracy. That was, during my time as Senator White's Chief of Staff, one of the main jobs that I had was to fight bureaucracy to get things moving. I just did that this week in Harrisburg. I met with the Secretary of DEP because we have some permitting issues to see some pretty significant economic projects advance here in Indiana County, and I think we were able to break the logjam, but it shouldn't require a state senator to sit down with the secretary of a department to try to get the bureaucracy to candidly do its job. Mm-hmm. And that's an ongoing frustration, and there are several bills moving to try to reform the way departments can establish regulations to ensure that if they're going to put a regulation in, they got to remove a regulation in areas like that. So I think that has to be a pretty immediate focus.
Is there a long-range goal or type of legislation that you would like to be working on at the same time? Because you can't just work on what's on the front page of your desk. You have to work on what's on the other pages as well.
Right. You have to look at the short run, the medium run, and the long run. And in the long run, for me, of course, is broadband internet access. We've talked a lot about that. There have been studies and reviews that have kind of told us what we already know. And I think the time now is to put some rubber to the road and get something done. Natural gas service in more rural communities. I look at what PennVest does with public water and public sewage, mm-hmm. and I'd really like to explore options of opening up opportunities similar to that for natural gas and broadband infrastructure. Yeah. You know, we just have a challenge in rural communities because we don't have a critical mass of customer base, but it's so darn frustrating whenever we're standing on natural gas literally under our feet, and so few people can access it for home heating use.
Senator White, of course, was such a champion of PennVest, and you were involved in all of that, mm-hmm. and how he was able to use that program to bring, we think of the funds, you know, and we put dollar figures on it, but really the lives that are impacted by having sanitary sewers. And having public waterworks, that's something you really can't measure with dollars, isn't it?
If you have a home without a reliable source of water, safe water, you don't have a home. I mean, when you think about it, your home can't exist without water. And so you're right, it is a critical component. Senator White was a champion of it. He was on the PennVest board. I'm hoping to continue to be a champion of that and be active with the PennVest board at the very least. Senator-elect
Joe Pittman, we're going to take that elect word off of that come Monday when he is sworn in Harrisburg. You know, we understand that this term that you're starting on Monday is really only going to go through the end of next year, and so you'll be in campaign mode again should you choose to run again. But you have such a long history working with the people in Harrisburg, with the bureaucracy, with the lawmakers themselves, and across both parties. Talk, if you would, about how those relationships are going to help you as you get to Harrisburg.
Well, they are really invaluable. To be able to walk into the Capitol and, number one, literally know where you're going, because it is a maze. It is a complex that you don't learn overnight.
Great building, though.
It is a beautiful building. It is one of the most historic treasures we have. Beautiful building. But to also know the people, know where to go, know who to talk to know the senators. I worked with many of the senators who are already seated in my capacity as a staff member, and it's going to be a real adjustment for me to realize our relationship is not what it used to be. It's a little different. I guess we're now peers, and so that's going to take a good bit of an adjustment. But I am fortunate to have had the experience that I've had. It's going to allow me to know where to go and hopefully solve problems as they arise.
One of the things that we got from the announcement yesterday was a comment from you about the people that worked in Senator White's office with you, and how so many of them are still there. But that office needs a new chief of staff. Have you announced that yet?
I have not publicly. We've worked through some things internally. I don't know that we're going to bring additional people on as yet. You have to remember Senator White was the chair of a significant committee. I am a freshman senator. I don't have a chair of a committee, and so my abilities to staff are not quite as extensive as Senator White's were. So we're going to move some things around internally. Senator White and I had a really good relationship in how we operated. I'm probably going to take a different look at how we structure things, but the important part is the people are remaining and the band's still together, if you will.
Yeah. Who's the best singer?
Not me.
You obviously need to be very excited, or should be very excited about this opportunity. I'm sure that you are. Just talk about, if you would, for a moment or so, what it means to be the senator representing not just Indiana County, but parts of Westmoreland, all of Armstrong, part of Butler County as well. What does that mean to you as on an individual, personal level?
It's an honor. It's more than anything, it's an honor. It's very humbling. It is exciting, and there's a healthy dash of fear in it as well. The responsibility that you inherit, and again, you're a steward of the office, and the institution continues regardless of who is representing it. And so I feel a very, very strong obligation to the district, to the voters who have supported me, and to those who didn't. This is not about partisan representation. This is about representation of the district. But I also have a deep respect for the institution, and I recognize that the way I represent the people of this district reflects the entire body of the Senate and the entire Commonwealth. And so it's a pretty overwhelming feeling and experience, and it's something I'm still, as much as I've been around it, trying to get my head around.
Come Monday, he will be Senator Joe Pittman, and we congratulate you on that. Look forward to Monday's ceremonies. People can watch it online at the Republican Caucus website.
Yes, and it's a fairly simple ceremony. It's brief, to the point. There's actually another senator also being sworn in because there were two special elections at the same time. So it's a pretty special place, and it's a real special honor.
No 3-hour inauguration speech from you?
No speech at all. No speech at all.
All right. Thank you so much for coming in today. We look forward to it.
Todd, thank you.
It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS AM 1160 and 101.1 FM.